Now then YouTube, welcome back. So I've come out today, I've left my microphone at home and I'm just using the wind slayer on the camera, so you'll have to let me know whether this audio is any better or any worse than it was last time. But I'm going to set off, not a breath of wind, and up here in the forestry it's absolutely blowing a gale. So today I've come out to talk to you about wild camping and throw my 2p in with that. We're going to talk about some do's and don'ts from my point of view and my feelings about it, and maybe some tips just to help any new starters, and hopefully get a bit of a conversation going really, because I like talking to you in the comments and that, and I'd like to know your opinion on it all, to be honest. So stay tuned, I'll try and get us out of this wind. Honestly, these walk back camera things, so annoying. I literally just missed a deer. I'm gonna have to see if it's in the footage. God damn. So the first question we ask is, what is wild camping? So wild camping, in a nutshell, is a place where you go camping where it's not an established campsite, is probably the best way I can describe it. So you're not paying to go, you take your tent, you walk out somewhere, and as a general rule of thumb for me, I'll try and make it so that I'm well away from any roads, well away from any traffic obviously, and sort of away from a public area or a busy public area. It can still be obviously public land. As we all know, in England wild camping is technically illegal. Now if you want to go wild camping but as a first timer and you've only got yourself to go with, so you're a solo wild camper, if you do want to get out or you're a little bit scared, then there's options out there such as wild camping campsites. So these campsites are generally an area where you obviously have to pay, but you don't always have to book, sometimes you do. There's a few of them throughout the lakes and obviously other areas, Wales, Yorkshire, all over the spot really. The two that are at the forefront of my mind in the Lake District are Turner Hall Farm is a really good one. You just turn up, pitch your tent wherever you like on their land, and at some point during the night or the next day someone will come round on a quad bike, take a tenner off you or whatever the cost is, and you've effectively gone wild camping. You've got the added bonus that there is toilets and facilities on the sites. Second one, Stonethwaite campsite. Now me and Chris did a video there very early spring I think, and we were in the Quechua tents on the motorbikes, and unfortunately that site's now closed down. They've had a lot of grief from the locals and the local pub allegedly, and yeah, they've had to close down. Massive shame. It was a brilliant campsite, and as I say, it was Borrowdale, it was like just a beautiful spot to go really. So there are other options obviously, but that was a good one. So yeah, if you're wanting a wild camp but you're a bit worried, that's obviously another option for you, is to go to a wild camping campsite. Not quite wild camping, but very nearly. So why wild camp then? Why do you think? Look at this. Absolutely stunning. It's a great way to get away from it all, and it's also a really good way to just reconnect with nature. If you don't know what that means, give it a go. A can't explain it, and I don't really know how to, but it works. Great for your mental health, great for your fitness, and just makes you feel like $1 million. How would you find a wild camping spot? Well, there's a lot of ways of doing it really. So the first and one of the best ways I'd say is deciding where you want to go for a wild camp and getting out, going for a walk, scoping it out and checking what it's like. I'm actually out today in the Hawk Forestry, a local place to me where I do go wild camping regularly, and it's recently had some forestry work done, and as a result what used to be trees is now wasteland. In amongst this wasteland there might be some good camping spots that where you would have had to use a hammock before, you might be able to put a tent now. So that's probably the first way that I would find my camping spot. Another good way is to use an app like Google Earth, Google Maps. The one that I use is OS Maps. It's about £30 odd per year for the app, and you get a mixture of topographic maps which show you roads, paths, public byways, water sources, everything. It's also got satellite maps, and it's all downloadable, so you can download the specific area that you want to do a camp in, and then when you get there and figure out you've got no signal, you can still look at the map. It's always a good idea. The next consideration I would say is, what are you going to take with you? And that's mainly surrounding food and drink to start with. So wowzers. So what food are you going to take? How are you going to cook it? Are you going to take water? Do you have a water filter? These are all things to think about, and all have a different impact on the weight of your backpack when you're out. So how far have you got to walk in? If you've got a big walk, do you really want to be carrying 6 litres of water? Probably not. But that's what I choose to do, because, well, I'm a big guy anyway, so a few more kilos ain't gonna hurt me. But others choose to take water filters, and that's obviously going to be dependent on which route you take, and it may even mean that you get your tent pitched and you have to move off elsewhere to go and find a water source to filter yourself some water. So as for food, there's an absolute multitude of different options out there, but probably the two most prominent ones are wet food sachets, and that is food that is already hydrated but has been vacuum sealed in a pack, and you just put the bag in boiling water and boil it for however long it takes to heat up properly. The second option is dehydrated food, which is much lighter, but you have to carry the water anyway because you're going to have to rehydrate it. So another priority with wild camping is finding a good pitch. You don't want to be walking 10 miles to a campsite or a wild camping spot and then finding that there's absolutely no views, nowhere decent to pitch your tent, and you're just going to have a miserable night. So when I'm looking for somewhere to pitch my tent, I'll always try and find somewhere relatively flat so that I know I'm lying flat when I'm in bed. I'll also look at the ground conditions, if there's loads of rocks everywhere. If it's really rough, uneven ground, it's sometimes difficult to pitch your tent because you can't get a tent peg in, You can also have sharp stones or brambles and thorns on the ground, and then you run the risk of popping your expensive sleeping pad. This dog's going to trip me up. So if you're out on the fells or the hills or the mountains, you find yourself a nice flat pitch with really firm but forgiving ground, it's going to be decent to put a tent peg in, and also you're probably going to have a good night's kip. There's naught worse than having your sleeping pad pop whilst you're a kip. You wake up on the cold hard ground. A rude awakening. Just while I'm on the subject of getting a good night's sleep, I would always advise, if you haven't got a high quality sleeping bag that goes down very low in temperatures, for the UK anyway, the minus is, if you haven't got one of those sleeping bags and you are heading out into the mountains, just be aware that it can get quite cold on the tops, even when it's nice and warm down here. You'd be surprised. So I would always advise to take some warmer clothes, down jackets and stuff. They pack down small for your bag, usually pretty lightweight, but there's some good synthetic options out there. What should I be packing? So what should I put in my pack for a camp? And that is an endless list. You can put anything you want in there. You've just got to be aware of how much it weighs and do you really need it. So as a general rule of thumb, I think to myself, right, I need shelter, so my tent's going in the bag. Then I need somewhere to sleep inside that shelter, so sleeping pad, pillow, sleeping bag. Then I think to myself, right, I've got my shelter, somewhere to sleep. What do I need next? Food, water. So am I taking water? Am I taking a water filter? Am I cooking burgers? Do I need my frying pan? Do I need brown sauce for my bacon and sausage bun in the morning? Woo! Slippy. Nigel. Too excited. Sit. Sit. Wait. Nigel. Sit. Sit. Got to do it, haven't I? Stepping stones, you're there for stepping on. So the next things to think about when packing your bag are a head torch. So you're always going to need light in an emergency if it's dark out, and as we're wild camping, it's unlikely that there's going to be any street lamps. Another useful item is a power bank to keep your head torch charged and also keep your phone charged, so that in the event that you need your phone, the battery's not dead. Oh, it's buggy. Whoa! Oh. Good God. Yeah, cheers Nigel, thanks for waiting for me. Get out of it. That's what the path's for, you minger. So my final piece of advice would be a med kit. So just a small first aid kit, something that you can deal with a bleed, closure strips, maybe a bandage, something you can put pressure on with, because chances are if you're camping you're using a knife. This wind is crazy. Hopefully this audio comes out, or this was a pointless walk. I keep saying that, it's not a pointless walk. It's good to get out, innit? Good for you, like I said, mental health, good for the ticker. So the next thing is, what tent do you need? And I believe that's down to personal preference. Now I'm going to put some pictures up, and this again is my opinion. I'll put them up over here, of tents that I don't think make the cut when we're wild camping. So what I mean is pop-up tents, festival tents, things like that. These are designed to be chucked up and just used as a quick shelter, and chances are you're going to be drunk and the rest of it anyway, so you're not going to realise what you're sleeping in. So these tents are not ideal for the mountains, they're not designed for bad weather, and to be quite honest, they're unsafe. When we get into the winter months, it's just not a good idea. With no experience and naff gear, getting out in the snow, yeah, it's cool, it looks awesome, but you have to have your wits about you, because if you don't, even the Lake District can bite. Frostbite. So that's not to say that you've got to spend a fortune, because you don't. So on the day that I made this video, I had a look online and there was a tent available, the OEX Fox 2, and it was 59 quid just on a Google search. There's loads of different options. Nature hike tents, a lot of them are lightweight, a lot of them will take a lot of stick, but none of them are going to match what your Hillebergs and your Fjellraven tents, and there's loads of brands, MSR, Nemo, you name it. You can literally spend what you want, but you don't have to spend a fortune. Now we're going to talk about my rules for wild camping. These aren't the rules, these are the rules that I stick by, and to be fair, there's probably more that I'm forgetting, but the first one, and most prominently, is leave no trace. So I don't know how else I can describe it other than take nothing but photos, leave nothing but footprints. Number two, again from my point of view, is be respectful or mindful. Don't disturb wildlife where possible, and also be mindful of other campers. People are obviously getting out wild camping to get away from it all. Don't just pitch your tent up next to Joe Bloggs that you've seen on the side of a hill. Look how big it is, all the room in the world. So don't pitch your tent next to anyone, give them space. If they want to come and have the crack with you, they'll come and have the crack with you later on, but don't just pitch up next to them. So the next one, number three, be aware of your surroundings. So when I say be aware, try and steer clear of footpaths, busy places, roads, farmland, anything like that where it's popular and there's going to be loads of people marching about. Again, these are my opinion and I won't enforce them on anybody. I'm just telling you what I do. So number 4 is be prepared. So being prepared literally comes down to make sure your kit's up to scratch. You check the weather before and during your camp so you've got no surprises. And if you're going for a long mission, make sure you've got enough to eat, enough to drink, and your camera's got enough battery so it don't run out. So next is to be mindful of local laws. So England and Scotland are very different in the rules, and Scotland's a lot more tolerant for wild campers. However, it doesn't mean you can just go and pitch up wherever you want. Anywhere in Scotland there is definitely still some rules. You've just got the right to roam a little bit further than you have in England. As for Wales, I don't know, I've never camped there. So rule number 6 for me is to be considerate, and that is arrive late, pitch up late, pack up early, and then you'll get away with camping in areas that you might not have got away with before. Close to a footpath, close to a busy public place, for example. If you pitch up late and pack up early, obviously leaving no trace, you're gonna have no drama. So number 7 is a big one for me. The last thing I want to do when I'm out on a hike or I'm camping is step in someone's dookie. The past few times I've been out, I've been walking in the lakes, I've come across 100% human poo right in the middle of the path. And yeah, it's funny, but it's not when you're out. You're out trying to be mindful and enjoy the scenery, and you come across someone's brown onion in the middle of the track. It's bang out of order. You just don't do it. So basically what I'm saying is, bury your turds, get off the path, get away from a nice flat camping spot, go behind somewhere and bury it. There's loads of little shovels and trowels on the market, so just use them. Don't surface lay, don't leave any wolf bait, just bury it nice and deep. It is windy. So these are the 7 main rules for me when I'm wild camping. As I said, there will be more, but these are the main ones that I stick to religiously. And I invite you to come and have the crack in the comments and tell me what your thoughts are. If you think I should be doing something different, or you think I should be doing something else as well, maybe something that I've not thought of, maybe something that I've forgotten to mention. So just before I forget, just to continue the mentioning of YouTubers, I've started watching a guy called Craig, and his channel's called Craig Outdoor Adventure. So I'll stick his picture up and his YouTube name, and if you could head over, watch some of his videos, give him a sub. He's a great guy. He does some epic walks, some even more epic camps. Pretty sure he cooked a burger in his last video, so he's up there with the best of us. So yeah, top effort Craig, keep up the good work. Man, it's an old man. Beautiful. You can still hear me, sorry about the wind. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you at the next one. Ta-da!